3 hours from El Paso and an hour from the Mexican border, Marfa, Texas was reborn as a mecca for minimalist art when the sculptor Donald Judd moved from New York City and purchased much of the town in the 1970s. The low-key artist had big plans for a former army base and some surrounding streets, turning them into a new kind of gallery where you could stroll between massive sculptures that would always be there, as permanent as the Chinati Mountains in the distance. It was, and is, stunning. One of the world's largest permanent installations of contemporary art, one that spills across dozens of buildings and across undulating pastures. That's what Judd envisioned and built until his death in 1994. And it's shockingly vast, a desert empire for a minimalist visionary with a taste for concrete, plywood, and steel. Flash forward a decade later. In 2005, two young artists based in Berlin, a provocative duo known as Elmgreen and Dragset, decided to take a poke at the ubiquity of luxury brands by putting one in the most unlikely spot you could imagine. The result was a realistic but completely fake Prada store on the road to Marfa. It was vandalized and criticized, but quickly became the iconic image, the essential Instagram photo of Marfa, with more than 500,000 posts, many of them imitating a famous shot of Beyoncé jumping in a bright yellow shirt. With her visit in 2012, the pop music star made it official that a new energy was emerging in Marfa. The town that Judd built, well, sort of, was now a photo op in front of a fake Prada store, much to the annoyance of certain locals who were convinced it was glitzing up the town and driving up real estate prices. Dusty little boxes were suddenly going for $450,000 because rich outsiders were buying up everything in a suddenly chic place that you're not supposed to call in the middle of nowhere. And everything was all gummed up, supposedly, because a little fake store created a big problem for the town. But it's not so simple. Elmgreen and Dragset are serious artists with a radical project. They want to challenge us with a cleverly dysfunctional object, a fake store that offers a brilliant denial of our need to splurge on obscene luxury goods. Elm and Drag didn't make a Prada advertisement. Or did they? If Prada Marfa is a sort of wake-up call to sleepwalking consumers, what happens when people just keep dreaming? And when the dream starts to change something very real in people's lives? This is the joy and the challenge of public art. After the artists are done, the work belongs to everyone. To understand how Prada Marfa became an internet sensation that challenged Marfa's sense of itself, I talked to people who came into contact with the artwork, sometimes by accident, sometimes on a pilgrimage to one of the most important works of contemporary art in the world. Some are longtime residents, others are just passing through. Some dislike it, others love it, but everyone's got an opinion to share, except a few locals who were reluctant to talk about something so sensitive as the shifting identity of their town and who might be responsible. Even when I explained that the interviews were anonymous, a few people still whispered, "We can't speak." Marfa is like a little high school. The threat of gossip and petty retribution is real. Fortunately, most people were happy to talk to me, which is good because I'm interested in the way that something like Prada Marfa enters the cultural landscape and causes little shifts or big shifts in our experience of place.
Today's my oldest granddaughter's 16th birthday. So I took a picture, said, hey, I stopped in to try to buy you something, but they wouldn't let me in. They don't allow bikers.
It's a fantastic piece of art. I mean, it's iconic. I love it. I absolutely love it.
Yeah. It's a nice piece of art.
I want to do some more research because I'm curious if that stuff is all actual Prada.
What do you think of it?
Try not to.
Where y'all from?
New York City.
Long way to come.
Not just for this, but it was on the way. Yeah.
How'd you find out about Prada Marfa?
Somewhere on the internet a long time ago.
Yeah, I think I saw it on Instagram at some point, and then we're doing a long road trip, and it showed up as an attraction on the way to Marfa, which is where we're going, so, yeah.
I told friends I was moving down here, and of course no one's ever heard of Marfa. So I showed them Instagram, and Prada Marfa comes up, and a couple days later when I was getting ready to leave, I overheard one of the girls telling the other friend, look, I don't care if it's fake Prada, I'm still gonna buy something from the store when we go down there to visit her. And I thought, it's not a fake Prada store, but at the same time, I just let it go and told her she might want to call ahead of time and see what their hours are. So I love it. I love it.
You know, like if you follow the Marfa hashtag, it's like, I'm gonna, like, I just fucking can't handle another cutesy posing in front of it who has no idea what it's about.
Have you seen it before?
Yeah, well, I did. It was getting dark when I headed down to Big Bend a few days back, and I thought, what the heck? It's pretty good. Actually, my daughter had seen people doing, in front of this online. I didn't even know it existed, but this that's a great idea. Yeah.
The desolate location of this was apparent like when I first heard about it. Then actually like driving out here, it's like, oh yeah, this is pretty far away from a lot of other places. So,
Yeah.
Well, it's unusual. It's a rare find out in West Texas. And a different type of advertising, isn't it? Yeah. We'll put advertising out in the middle of nowhere, and people will come. Build it, and they will come.
To me, it's like annoying that people come here and all they want to do is talk about Prada Marfa. And I'm like, that's fine. Like, I'm not mad about that, but there's a lot more here than Prada Marfa.
It's weird that the Prada Marfa store seems to oddly tie in quite nicely, I think, with whatever sort of pop culture references there are now. In the same way that the world's largest pistachio nut might have been interesting to like a family with like Kodachrome cameras in the 60s, like, hey kids, go stand by the nut, like it's funny.
But almost like in a weird way to me, it seems to somehow like virtualize or it digitizes or something reality. And so I think that's part of the reason I have to give a lot of credit to some extent to that artwork for the rise in tourism in Marfa. And I think it's because of the ease with which that image building is able to circulate in these kind of channels that we now live in which indicate sort of lifestyles and achievement to some extent. And like to reach that image becomes a kind of achievement for a demographic,
Like everything is created for someone to take a photo and post it on Instagram and hashtag. And that thing is totally happening with Prada Marfa, but Prada Marfa existed before that. So it's kind of come up to this technology in a way.
I've driven by it many times and never stopped.
What do I think of it? Crazy, way the hell out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, I just rode real slow by Valentine, you know, and I'm like, man, this little town out in the middle of nowhere, you know.
So it's not surprising at all to me that that should be the way that a lot of people come to know about art in this area, and that, you know, that for sure has, like, they're going to know that before they know Judd. I don't think that's fundamentally good or bad. I just think it's sort of the way things are.
Prada Marfa. I can't believe we almost drove right by this. It's an art exhibit. Really cool.
How did you find out about it?
I can't actually remember. I think maybe I saw a picture of it once, probably on the internet or something.
So all around the building is a fence, and people have put locks and little notes and trinkets and things like that all around.
I've been on a really big road trip, and so I'm coming through Marfa, and like part of it is, yeah, mostly just to see the art.
It's like a mecca for all these like southern girls and guys, I guess, to just kind of come and take a photo in front of it and then leave. A lot of them don't even know about Chinati or, you know, anything to do with Marfa, so.
People around the town found the storefront plastered with posters, sides covered in blue paint, awnings torn and back tagged, among other damage Sunday morning.
I hear a lot of hate, but it has to cease. I'm tired of the OTO now, where's your niece?
You know, you're talking about the football dad with the TCU jacket who said, you know, well, I try not to think about it, while his daughter and his wife are over there taking photos and oohing and eyeing. And I guess, right, what he's trying to think about is like, or not think about, is there's a world there that my wife and daughter are peeking into, and it's a world that I don't really know and am maybe intimidated by or prefer, which is stay on its side of the fence. There are only so many things I can do. I'm not doing that. So get back in the car, girls. Let's keep on going.
As a kid who grew up in El Paso, I come to Marfa and I see all these New Yorkers that act like they discovered the desert in Marfa, and it makes me sad because this prosperity, this excitement and interest should be in El Paso, where it could benefit a lot more people.
I think it was probably worth it in the same way that you build a ghost town for a Hollywood Western 1950s to shoot 'em up cowboy movie. Like, you got to build the town, and the movie's a success. It doesn't. The town can sit there. It could be taken over by hippies, or it can burn to the ground, or they can use it for another movie. It doesn't matter. And so, in that sense, I think they succeeded.
I think the Instagram thing is interesting because I was reading about it. It was like, didn't this get famous because Beyonce did an Instagram here or something like that? Yeah, and I didn't know that either. I don't know where I actually saw this for the first time, but I had a buddy who's another designer who'd come out here on, I don't think he was going to Big Bend though, but I was like, I was going here and he was like, it's near Big Bend, swing through. And I was like, okay, got to get the photo, right, of it. So. And we met some people yesterday in Big Bend who'd done that and come out and gone there for the whole day.
But they were very Instagram-ish people.
Oh, they were terrible.
They were all about the photo. And all day they were doing the poses on the river and everything. And I could so see them just coming here to take pictures in front of things, you know, for their profile of whatever site they're on. I don't know. But
when you drive by, you can see people standing in line. I've seen horses and people in front of it, fashion shoots, but it really is when Beyonce jumped in front of the Prada Marfa store that it became just a huge, iconic example of this place in far west Texas as a destination. And that's different than what the initial intention of the Prada Marfa installation is. But of course, as we know as artists, we can't control what happens with our art and how people perceive and experience our art.
I think people go to Prada Marfa because they want to take their own photos, even though like James Evans' photo of it when it opened, that's like a fantastic photo of it. It's really hard, like you can get lots of different photos, but the thing exists as this beautiful photo, and in a lot of ways that's all you need.
There is actually something in the proximity of it, but it's not obvious, and it's not obvious specifically in that James Evans photo. And I think that's what those guys were driving for. That photo was the thing they wanted to create. They built the building to create that photo. It is the juxtaposition of that thing in that desert landscape that I think was what they were really going for, and they succeeded in that respect. And then everything else kind of falls away.
I feel like Target Marathon was like a really good counter to Prada Marfa, a good response. And that made me really sad when the owner of the land tore that down.
It's a lot like the tree you drive through. I remember seeing the tree you drove through and thought, I'd like to see that. Mm-hmm. I'd like to go to that. And when I was 22 years old and driving across the country, that's what I did.
Do I think that it led to gentrification of Marfa? Actually, not really, if you see how old it is compared to when the extreme gentrification has happened. But gentrification of Marfa has happened over many decades in waves and in different ways. And what is a gentrification of Marfa? I mean, this was Mexico. This was indigenous land before it was Mexico. It was Mexico. The ancestors of the Hispanic people who live here, or the Mexican American people who live here, fought on the side of Mexico, not on the U.S., but now their ancestors are living people now. Many work for Border Patrol. So what is gentrification? You know, it's very complex. It's not a simple thing.
I don't think I regret that it's here. I think it is a piece of Marfa's history for sure, a piece of Marfa's intrigue and draw for visitors. I'm actually surprised that TxDOT didn't order its removal during that kerfuffle a few years ago, because of the Playboy Marfa, another response to Prada Marfa. So I guess in that way, people like Playboy put in Playboy Marfa, unknown artist puts up this funny Target Marathon, and now there's that giant situation right outside of town. So people are responding to Prada Marfa. So that's always important. I mean, that's keeping it alive in that way.
I was so surprised to see, honestly, that it was a foreign artist, though. Because when I saw that over there, I was like, oh, okay, those aren't Americans that are doing that. And way out here, like, what foreigners coming all the way out here to do an art installation, right? You'd think everybody's, like, from Marfa that would be doing this. So there's interesting commentary there, I feel like.
Now globally recognized artists, Elm Green and Dragset have continued to use their razor-sharp wit to put the art world under the microscope.
Elm Green and Dragset. Elm Green and Dragset.
They have an incredible talent for staging scenes where ordinary people get caught up in their creative web, and it has brought them global acclaim. But they couldn't have imagined the extraordinary public response to Prada Marfa, which was built a few years before Instagram, if anyone can remember such a time. Social media has taken their work to a new level and raised new questions. Using Instagram to celebrate the pilgrimage to the Prada logo, or taking pictures like it's a quirky roadside attraction, well, that seems like a defeat for the artists, right? Worse than the audience not getting the joke, some visitors respond perversely as if they're saying, "We adore Prada Marfa the way we adore Gucci and Lexus and the Kardashians." Or they respond with even more delirious consumerism, a hint of how fun that Prada is in the desert and I can't wait for them to be on the moon. There is prescience then to Prada Marfa, and it's unnerving because it's not impossible to imagine real luxury stores on Highway 90 someday. High-end boutiques are already in Marfa. It's a strange kind of public art that absolutely captivates the public, but not always as art. To many visitors, Prada Marfa is a kind of goofy spectacle, a curiosity, a marketing gimmick, a roadside attraction like Carhenge or Ralph the Swimming Pig, a backdrop to a quick selfie, and not much more. But it is more. It brings delight, perplexity, and wonder, all of which have radical potential in a routinized world, at least if we are willing to put in the work, to meet the artists halfway. Maybe Prada Marfa offers sustenance to the alternative futures we need to conjure. Maybe it's an invitation to something other than the unsustainable norm. Certainly, this work welcomes people who otherwise feel unwelcome in the art world, people who, like Elm and Drag, didn't go to art school. And of course, the story isn't over. Prada Marfa will continue to spark conversations about the nature of art, as well as the soul of Marfa. And in this regard, it's an essential addition to the landscape of West Texas.
But, you know, even though I feel like I'm salty about Prada Marfa just because I am a resident of Marfa and invested in this community in a different way from what a visitor would be, I'm not mad about its existence. If people want to drive out there and take their photos, like, who am I to say that that's stupid?
I'm curious if that stuff is all actual Prada.
Yeah. It's a nice piece of art.